Brady takes the shotgun snap, looks, pulls the trigger, touchdown to Randy Moss.
Jahmyr Chase says he's not stepping on the field until he gets a new deal. And word is, they're not even close. They're barely even talking. So I ask you again, why are you selecting Jahmyr Chase? Tony Cutillo here, episode 2 of Spiking the Pigskin, the all-new fantasy football podcast, powered, as always, by Win Daily. And like I told you last week, I'm going to continue to tell you again, make sure you get signed up at windailysports.com. Use that code HEAT, H-E-A-T, and get 50% off all our memberships for everything we have, from projection models to props to home run props to touchdown props, season-long rankings, DFS, optimizers. I mean, it's all there. And again, you can get a week for $7.50. Where else can you get that? It's certainly not in Cincinnati. And back to Jahmyr Chase, because again, this was my fear all along. I continue to say fade the Bengals, fade the Bengals. And here it is. My logic, again, comes into play. I do not like all this negative press. I don't like any of it. Why do you want to deal with this as a fantasy owner? And by the way, I don't understand for the life of me why, even before this came out, Jahmyr Chase was talked about in some drafts as top 2 in the receiver department, and I don't get it. And here's why. Listen to these numbers and tell me if this is a guy who you feel cushy about, who you feel extremely safe about as being your number 1 guy. Finished as the 14th wide receiver last year in fantasy. Played all 16 games too. That's not saying a lot when you finish 14th. 7 single-point games. I'll say it again. 7 single-point games in a PPR system. Only 5 games with 100-plus yards. And by the way, they were the only games in which he had double-digit receptions. He had 11 games with 9 or fewer targets, 10 games with 5 or fewer catches, 12 yards per carry the last 2 years, down from 18 his rookie year. Are you kidding me? You're telling me that that's the guy that you want as your top receiver, and to deal with all this nonsense? And here's what I will say, even as your top 3, 4, 5 receiver, because look at those numbers. 10 games with 5 or fewer catches. As that guy, no way. You cannot win a championship with that. Now let's look at 3 guys that are being drafted after Jahmyr Chase. A.J. Brown. You all know my love for A.J. Brown, all because of consistency. Something that we see right here that Jahmyr Chase does not have. For A.J. Brown, 8 games of 10 or more targets. Only 1 game with 10 plus catches, but here's the consistency part. 7 games of 100 or more yards. Only 4 games in single digits, down 3 from Jahmyr Chase, and 13.7 yards per carry, almost 2 yards full, higher than Mr. Chase. Now let's go to the sun god himself, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. 10 games over 100 yards, 9 games of 10 plus targets, and only 1 game in single digits. That's 6 less than Jahmyr Chase. And then, just for the hell of it, let's go to Puka Nacua, who was an absolute gem last year and a steal. 7 games of 10 or more targets, 8 games of 100 plus yards, and 4 games in single digits. Still 3 less than Jahmyr Chase. And by the way, the highest yards per catch of them all at 13.8. Again, you see what's going on. You have to understand the metrics of the entire landscape. You cannot just zone in on numbers based on an overall projection or an overall average. That's fine. You could do yearly averages all you want, but do you do week-to-week consistency? Do you look at, are they boom and bust picks? Like Jahmyr Chase had 1 game with 152 yards and 3 touchdowns. That elevated his status up to another tier just because of that 1 game. But again, 7 single digits. You cannot draft a number 1 wide receiver who is going to give you almost half of his games played at single digit production in a full point PPR league. That is just straight suicide as a fantasy GM. Can't do it. Now, I'm telling you right now, you're not going to win. You can battle me all you want, but you're not going to win. The only way you're going to win is if you get lucky and find that Puka Nacua, okay? if you get lucky and find that guy later on in the drafts. That's the only way that you're going to win, with having your top guy give you lackluster and inconsistent production. And you want to place a sports wager and you don't have time to do it, and you don't have time to study. That's why we're here. Or maybe you're already a pretty good sports bettor, but you want a little more information. That's why we're here. Either way, we have you covered here at windailysports.com, where we have projection models, we have expert chats, we have prop betting models. We also have deals through all our partners to make sure you get the best bang for your buck. Just think of this scenario. You're working all day long. Now baseball games start early. Sometimes they start at 6 o'clock on Easter time. Maybe you don't get home till 5. You want to spend time with the family. You want to have dinner. But you also want to get some bets in, and you haven't had time to do it all day. No time for research. No time for study. Well, guess what? That's where we come in. You just hop up to windailysports.com. You go to your account. You go to the prop page, what team you want to bet on, what players. You look at our edge meter, you find out the best lines all on one page. Boom, within 10 minutes, your bet is placed, your wager is done, and now you can eat, you can get relaxed, and you can watch and win. It's that simple. And right now, because you're listening to this podcast, this segment, we'll get you 50% off. Use the code HEAT, H-E-A-T. If you are a new user, that's all you need to do is go to windailysports.com, go to the checkout page, and type in H-E-A-T and get 50% off. You can get a week for $7.50. You can get a month for $24.99, or you can get 3 months for an easy $75. I'm telling you right now, if you do the 3 months for $75, you will make that money back and pay for the next 3 months by the time the end of the first month is done. Again, HEAT, H-E-A-T is the code, windailysports.com, and start winning with us today. Since we're on the topic of being safe, let's head on down to the Motor City in Detroit and start to dissect the Jahmyr Gibbs injury. Now, I know everybody's saying it's a precaution. It's not a precaution. This is a mild strain of the hamstring, a soft tissue injury that I'm going to tell you right now is going to linger. Look at what's happening right now. If you're a baseball fan, and everybody knows I'm from Philadelphia, so I'm watching a guy in Trey Turner who is one of the fastest guys in baseball, and I watched him come back from a mild strain of his hamstring, and he's been back for almost a month, and guess what? He still is not full speed. You're talking about a running back on your team that you're going to select some people as their number one guy because they go receiver first, but you have to start looking. I cannot tell you this enough, that you have to start looking at the guys that are surrounding him in your tier. And if they're even similar, even semi-similar, you really need to consider the health status and the lingering effects of an injury like this and what it can mean to your fantasy squad. Not everybody's strong enough to be able to draft with extreme depth, especially when you're drafting in a league that has very conscientious owners. Now, if you look at Jahmyr Gibbs, and he's being drafted around guys like Travis Etienne, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, Isaiah Pacheco, Josh Jacobs. I'm going to tell you what, man, like based on this injury alone, and for the simple fact that David Montgomery is still there and he's posting on Twitter and Instagram that he's deadlifting like 1,000 pounds, guess what? I don't want any part of it. Is Jahmyr Gibbs going to be Christian McCaffrey? No. Is Jahmyr Gibbs going to be the secret weapon to you winning a fantasy championship? I'm going to say no. But could Breece Hall? Sure. Could Jonathan Taylor? Possibly. Could Saquon Barkley? Absolutely. Drafted ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs. But when you drip down into that tier of Kamara and Etienne and Henry and Pacheco, guess what? Derrick Henry could easily have 10 to 15 touchdowns this year by accident. He could easily have 1,500 yards rushing. And by the way, who's his competition? Oh, Isaiah Pacheco? Who's his competition? Travis Etienne, who does a lot? Who's his competition? So you think about it, and again, why let an injury like that kind of stranglehold you the entire year as an owner, hoping, is he going to be tweaked? Is he going to be 100%? Are they going to ease him back into play? Is he going to split some carries? See, this is the problem. These are all the questions you have to ask. And like I'm telling you, why would you want to ask them when you're talking probably about a 20 to 25 point difference between those guys, okay, over the course of 17 games, which guess what? That's not even a point a week. Are you kidding me? Think about it. Why take the headache? That's why I draft safe, people. That's why I do all these analytics, and that's why I look at the entire landscape and say, you know what? What is a better avenue to travel? And that's why I'm going to go with guys that are more likely to be spiking the pigskin instead of sitting on the bench. As always, make sure you're liking and subscribing. If you're listening on YouTube, make sure you're following and liking and rating us if you're following on podcast. And as always, make sure you get locked in to that 50% off deal. Code word HEAT, HEAT. All you do is go to windailysports.com. You go to checkout and you type in the code HEAT, and everything that you select will be 50% off. It will show you can get $7.50 for a week. You can get $25 for a month, or you can even get 3 months for $75. Telling you right now, it's simply the best deal around. Now I'm going to go put in some more NFL futures and get ready for episode 3 coming soon of Spiking the Pigskin.